ISJ Leaders in Security. Today I'm joined by John Cowling, an independent security consultant. Hi there, John. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Matt, and thanks for the opportunity.
That's no problem at all. First of all, how do you think security professionals can prepare for life post-COVID-19?
So one of the interesting points there is that security professionals need to understand and accept that there is a new normal and that this is going to be radically different to what they've been used to in the past, because the global professional environment is going to continue to dynamically evolve at an unprecedented rate that they've probably been used to in the past. So for example, remote working has exponentially been accepted by the global professional community. Were we ready for that? Some would say yes, some would say no, but overall we probably weren't as well as we could have. So there's going to be issues like that, along with the reduced availability of business travel. This isn't just going to affect the security professionals. This is going to affect the whole business community. And this is about survival and understanding that when we are able to resume some of our previously business behaviours, such as business travel, it's going to be at an increased cost. So there are going to be a lot of changes that we're going to have to adapt to. And so I think that's one of the interesting points that we have to think about, because it's about survival for the employer. We have to also take into consideration that personal opinions and beliefs on a range of topics, from environment and climate change, social injustices, perceived or real, as well as ultimately geopolitical issues, will flow over into the workplace as we're finding that employees becoming more engaged in global issues. So this is a leadership decision that businesses need to understand, and they're going to rely heavily on security professionals for advice. So this kind of falls into the next topic, where we have to be ready for the new normal and we have to be more inclusive. And so this isn't just about gender diversity. This is about culture. This is about understanding. This is about realizing that personal opinions are no longer separated from professional behavior. And in doing so, we're going to have to understand that maybe we had some skills in crisis management or cybersecurity or some other elements that we weren't particularly strong in. Well, we have to become a lot stronger, because along with the concerns around remote working from home, cybersecurity has become much, much more big of an issue. So we have people working in perhaps through VPNs or perhaps through servers that perhaps don't have the same level of security that they would have in the office. Access to their equipment, for example. And along the way, we're going to have to look at how do we continue our professional development in a recognised manner. And this is going to include formal training, education, and certification. So there are quite a lot of changes, and we have to be ready to adapt and be flexible.
I mean, you mentioned the new normal there. What do you think the new normal will look like for security professionals?
So traditionally, the security industry has relied heavily on ex-military, ex-law enforcement personnel, and there is certainly they have some great strengths. At the same time, because of the different professional environment that we're going to be working in, where we're finding companies accepting the diversity as a benefit, which it really is, we have to understand that we're going to have to work with a whole bunch of leadership and management personnel who perhaps don't always think or look or sound like us, and we're going to have to convince that what we want to achieve is in the best interests of the organisation. So there's going to be a lot more, I guess, change. There's going to be a lot more personal opinions coming in, which have to be respected, in some ways embraced, to enable the security professional to succeed. If you look at going back to the remote working and the growth in applications like Zoom, like we're using today, we have to understand that the security professionals, whilst in the past may have been quite, I guess, conservative in some of the ways that we're working, we have to be able to embrace new technology, new ideas, and have to really become enablers, not just in talking about enabling an organization to succeed, but actually actively participating and in many ways leading. So if, for example, we had a client or we had a supplier or a provider that was quite conservative around using a application such as Zoom, but we found that for our personnel it was crucial that we're able to use such technology, then we have to find a solution. And a lot of the times it's going to have to be, innovative, and it's going to have to be different to how we did things in the past.
Okay, thank you. And how will these issues impact multinational organisations that are operating across the globe?
So operating across multiple time zones and multiple cultures and languages is going to prove difficult, but the use of technology is certainly going to assist. Certainly at the same time, the security team should be embracing diversity. For example, I'm in the Middle East, so it's important that I'm able to reach out to human resources that speak the right dialects and the right languages. And that often is a interesting conversation to have with organizations around, do they have the right skill sets in the right locations because they can't travel. So for example, undertaking a security risk assessment would often involve a site visit. Well, right now in many countries that can't happen. So to still achieve the same goal, the same function as you want, we have to work out how do we be innovative and new and train and trust personnel in key locations to assist us to get the work done. So I think that itself is going to be interesting. And of course, when we look at travel security for business travel, in the past, we're focused on such things around security and safety. But of course, now we have the pandemic concern is a much, much larger one than has been before. So the broadening of the skill set and the adaptability is crucial. The number of security personnel that I talk to who don't read the daily news, who don't keep up with geopolitics, is astounding, because this is now a global community that we're in, and doesn't matter which part of the world you're in, the rest of the world now affects you. Certainly COVID has demonstrated that.
Okay, thank you. And will the Middle East and other regions still need expatriate security roles? So,
as we've seen in many markets, such as Asia, there's been a push over the last 20 years to localize and to bring up talent to the level that is required. And I think over time, the expatriate job market for security professionals will diminish, not just around a localization program, but also around the fact that maturing of markets will make it harder. And then, of course, business travel is going to become more expensive. So the concept of perhaps flying someone in from Europe or the Americas to the Middle East will just become a lot more expensive. So there's going to be more of a push, and I've already seen this with several organizations, where during COVID, they've wanted to keep their personnel busy. So they've been looking for training options to keep them occupied. And of course, this enhances their localization. And I've been involved in a few different countries around mentoring of local nationals. And as a strategy over time, it's beneficial to everyone concerned. So I suspect that over time, expatriates in security roles will still be required, but just in much more of a specialized or perhaps niche market.
Okay, and obviously you've been based in the Middle East for a number of years now. I mean, how do you see security changing in the Middle East at the moment?
So touching on, I guess, some of the things I've just spoken about around localization, around reduction of expatriates, regarding business travel, the Middle East is still, and will probably always be, historically it has, a dynamic and diverse operating environment. So what's changing is that, I guess it stays the same in many ways, in that it always changes. Just when you think you understand the Middle East, something happens and everything changes. So what I mean by that is, we could talk about the Enlightenment, the Arab Spring, or the Revolution, whichever name you want to sort of give it to. That was totally unforeseen several years ago, and that did change quite a lot in the Middle East. We have a war going on still in Yemen. That wouldn't have been predicted 5-10 years ago. But then again, when you look at countries like Iraq, every 5 to 10 years, historically, they've had some sort of civil conflict. So it's important to understand that the world's shrinking in terms of access to communication, maturing of skill sets, especially around security and localization. So I suspect in the Middle East, I would sort of forecast for the next 10 years in the Middle East, that in many ways, a lot of the same issues that are not being resolved today around geopolitical issues mainly will remain. So we're still going to have the same types of countries in conflict, in whether it be physical or political, diplomatic. So we're not going to resolve these issues in a hurry. It's going to take 10, 20 years. It's going to take a generation for big major change. However, the big players in the global market, we're talking sort of the US, China, and Russia, their influence over the Middle East probably won't change exponentially. It will change slowly and gradually because all three want a piece of the action over here.
John, thank you so much for your time today and for taking part in our Leaders in Security series. It's been a real pleasure to speak with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew. Have a great day.
Yeah, and viewers, please remember, if you are watching this on YouTube, please do click the follow button underneath the video to ensure you don't miss another episode of Leaders in Security.